Afternoon. Sorry, completely lost it there. What am I doing? Where am I? Who am I? I know who you are. You are Brandon Waltens, senior editor of Texas Scorecard.
Good job.
You are whoever you are, and we appreciate you joining us for a few minutes here on this Monday afternoon in, I guess you would call, we are in faux fall.
Yeah.
Nice weekend.
It's hotter than
Temps
average
temps are
for this
going
time of year, but it's also, I think we got pretty lucky this summer too.
Got
That's what I've been saying.
Very fortunate this summer. So, faux fall kind of kicking in. Today is the first day of, I guess, kind of the calendrical fall, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Today, apparently at 1 o'clock, I guess, is fall. Looked up for stupid reasons. Look that up this weekend. But we're going to have hot temperatures. So don't get rid of your shorts yet, because of course we're going to have second summer coming up, my favorite season of the year. And then we'll have fall, then we'll have winter, fake winter, second winter, fake spring, first summer, all the, the 19 seasons of Texas.
Yeah. Okay. Looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that. All right. This has been your meteorology report for the day. What is getting, it feels like, hotter, are university campuses.
Oh, that's a good segue.
How was that? Yeah. I would think about that. Yeah. So the university campuses are continuing to be a problem. We've watched, of course, kind of culminating in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But in the aftermath of that, you see, these people, the cheering at his death, this just wild, gross behavior. Now at the University of North Texas, you've got the university there kind of standing back, allowing these miscreants to attack Turning Point USA tables, making verbal and physical threats against young conservatives on campus, and doing nothing about it. Horrible to hear from our universities, not to even mention the stuff being taught in the classrooms.
Exactly. UNT, very interesting case, because while we have seen inaction from the University of North Texas, in contrast, we've seen at places like Texas Tech, at Texas State University as well, where the administration has tamped down on those kinds of the really obscene sort of demonstrations that we've seen from the left against Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA on those chapters. Really common sense reactions, things that are rare seemingly in higher education, but are always nice to see. And then you have the University of North Texas, which seems to, at this point, by their inaction, has essentially said that they endorse and think this kind of behavior is okay.
Yeah. And so, you've got underlying all of this has been these philosophies have been allowed to, that I think all of us, I said this on Chris Alceo show this morning, this is where some of us need to kind of own our responsibility here. We've all get so focused on, has my alma mater won the football game against the cross-state rival? Have we, are we getting a good return on the 14-star quarterback, or whatever kind of stupid, rather than, what's going on in these classrooms, what's going on in these universities. It's supposed to be the reason they exist. Believe it or not, my fellow Aggies might take me to task for this, but A&M is supposed to exist for something more than football. In fact, football is kind of is supposed to be kind of the afterthought. Same thing for Texas, for Baylor, for SMU, for North Texas, for Texas Tech, all these universities. And yet we've all allowed ourselves to get so focused on the football field, we've lost sight of what's happening everywhere else, to the extent that you've now had two presidents in a row at Texas A&M University resign in disgrace after their unrepentant pushes for DEI were just too much to ignore. And now you've got the Board of Regents at A&M, who just shoved out their second DEI promoting president, hiring at their Victoria campus a big proponent of DEI. The acting president of Texas A&M, we've got a story that's going to be coming out today or tomorrow that is looking at how the acting president has this, the video that you're going to be seeing at texasscorecard.com later today or tomorrow, of Robert Hallmark defending and not only defending DEI, but kind of trashing lawmakers for their for their misunderstanding of the noble purpose of DEI, when in fact DEI is a I think you can safely say, Brandon, this is a deadly philosophy. This is a philosophy that has been used to encourage deadly behavior.
It's a deadly philosophy, and it's also one that's been pretty soundly rejected in Texas.
Right.
And certainly through the legislature. The legislature has taken efforts to stop DEI on campus in different forms, saying, okay, universities can't have DEI departments. They can't use DEI in their hiring. But more broadly than that, you've seen that there's been a big political pushback, regardless as to whether or not there's legislation, for or against certain things. Right. There's certainly not an appetite, I think, among most Texas voters and most Texas taxpayers to fund this sort of behavior. And so it is, I think, frustrating for some people to see, look, Texas A&M now had, as you pointed out, 2 university presidents have to leave because of this sort of DEI behavior. And we don't know who the next one's going to be. We've got an acting president right now, as you mentioned, but that's sometimes a bit of an on-ramp, right? We've seen that happen where, an acting president becomes an interim president and they get promoted to the full-time position. And it seems that just one after another, all these people have their hands dirty in this stuff. Not to mention the fact that over in Victoria on a different Texas A&M campus, they're set to potentially hire another DEI activist president. So it's no wonder why people are frustrated. I think that this is one of those situations where, people need to be calling on the Board of Regents to be actually active in governing these institutions and not just letting them sort of run amok, which we've seen happen. And actually hold these people to task. I think that whoever the next president of Texas A&M is will say a lot about how seriously the A&M administration and Board of Regents take this this threat against DEI.
All right, let's shift gears. Let's go from universities down to the border.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, Brandon, when you brought this up to me this morning, I had to kind of think through what do these initials mean. You want to talk a little bit about OLS, and I thought, okay, I remember OLS. I remember it was a really big deal, but quite frankly, we have a new president, and I've kind of forgotten about it.
Yeah, OLS, Operation Lone Star. So for folks who might need a little bit of a refresher, that was / sort of is the border enforcement mechanism that the state had taken over the last several years, especially during the Biden administration that was led by Governor Greg Abbott. And you had different state agencies, DPS, Texas National Guard, as well as some other agencies as well coming in to assist in at least attempting to slow or otherwise address the onslaught of illegal border crossings that happened during the Biden administration. Was it successful? That people can look at that and make their own determination. Certainly, we still had thousands upon thousands of people coming across. Now with the Trump administration in place, the state level of enforcement has gone way down, and because the threat itself has gone way down. I mean, you actually have Border Patrol being enabled to stop people from coming across, which is something that wasn't really happening during the Biden administration. So at the same time these illegal border crossings have gone down, we still have thousands of people who have been arrested for criminal trespass under Operation Lone Star from last year, before the Trump administration came into office. And Travis has a story, our legal reporter, on exactly this situation, which some of these border counties now find themselves in, which is that last year you had state agencies assisting, getting this big operation together to arrest and prosecute these illegal crossers for criminal trespassing. Now some of them have left. Their funding has dried up, resources have been reallocated, and the state's not taking as much of an aggressive role in this. And that has left some of these border counties holding the bag. We've got an interesting report on that coming up this week.
Okay. For many of far too many of us, we live in HOAs. Mm-hmm. These little fiefdoms but they are voluntary. You can choose to buy a home in that HOA or not, right? And the promise of a pool down the street that you access, I guess, is worth the price you pay. But the HOAs have come to be fairly standard, pretty on new developments.
Sure.
The developers like them. They make some residual money. long after the house has been sold. Those HOAs have been existing there. You're covering an HOA from hell,
Yeah.
which quite frankly is, and I think a lot of folks, you kind of think, oh, why do I care about some HOA where I don't live? Because it's not actually an HOA, but there's a governing entity that we've allowed to be created in Texas that often get formed with one person voting on a plot of land that's later developed that impacts people forever. Tell me about this municipal utility district that is literally an HOA from hell.
So this is a wild story. I've never seen anything like this. Any new development that you're moving into, chances are that if it's new construction, they're going to have an HOA, right? A homeowners association. There's also a pretty good chance that if it's been built in the last couple decades, that it's probably going to be in a MUD as well, which are sort of these extra this jurisdiction that's sort of out of the city, provides certain resources, and it helps
It
them.
might be in the ETJ.
Yeah, that's the
but
word
it's
I'm looking
not in
for.
the city limits.
Yes, extraterrestrial jurisdiction, right? And these are used to provide maybe water or other services, and it's sort of the way that these things have been set up. People pay taxes to a MUD. In this situation, you have a neighborhood in Cedar Park in Central Texas, where there's a MUD, it's the Williamson Travis Municipal Utility District, that is the residents allege has essentially been acting like an HOA, has been trying to fine residents for leaving their trash cans out after the trash day or things like that, threatening to shut off their water. And the difference here is that while an HOA can fine you, and then if you really drag it out, right, there's certain deed restrictions that can maybe kick you out of the neighborhood, force you to sell your home. In this situation, you actually have a real government entity that these citizens say has been a problem. And so what did they do? Well, they started educating their fellow citizens there in the neighborhood. They started a website to try to educate folks about the MUD and the problems there. They started showing up to those MUD meetings where the board of directors was setting these policies and trying to make their voices heard. In response, the MUD and their board of directors actually sued these residents of the MUD and said that they were essentially harassing them, right? Because they were being criticized online, because they were showing up to their board meetings. They wanted a judge to step in and prevent them from making any sort of public criticism, really, and from showing up at the MUD meetings themselves, which is a very, very big bar, right? To say, okay, well, we're going to tax you, we're going to run this MUD, but you're not going to be allowed to actually come and have your voices heard. Luckily, these citizens didn't take it lying down. They actually fought it. I was at the court hearing last week, and on Friday, you had the judge grant a dismissal of the motions under the Texas Citizen Protection Act, which is something we've talked about a lot, which is essentially this statute that allows citizens, whenever they're being sued by the government for expressing their First Amendment rights, essentially in this case, allows them to get those motions dismissed and actually collect attorney's fees and try that. This is interesting too, because there have been efforts over the last couple sessions, unsuccessful, to actually water down or otherwise basically remove these TCPA protections. And this is just another one of these stories. We've talked about several of them, but I think this is a very unique one where the TCPA has been shown to really be something that has protected citizens. I mean, literally, Michael, imagine a government entity saying you can't show up to our meetings or we're going to throw you in jail.
Yeah, and look, these on many of our viewers, many of our readers, there will be a MUD at the bottom of your ballot. For a great many Texans, these municipal utility districts exist at the bottom of the ballot, and for most people, they just skip right past them.
Sure.
Because you don't know what they do. They take, take a couple pennies off your property tax rate every year. So all you know is they exist. They take money from you and allegedly getting clean water or something out of them. And we kind of lose sight of these are government entities, and that a friend of ours used to say that you still have to live under the government you ignore. And these municipal utility districts, these MUDs, they tend to be those kind of levels of government we ignore. And this is a great example of why we can never ignore government.
No, exactly right.
All right. So speaking of offices that we ignore, positions we ignore, somewhere around 95% of Texans don't participate in our school board elections. Most Texans don't show up to vote in school board elections. Horrifying. That your single largest property tax issuer, collector off of your home, your business. They touch 95+% of students. Even with the new school choice legislation going to effect next year, still about 95% of Texas students will be in public schools. But yet 90-ish% of Texans don't vote in the school board elections. And as a result, that's why I would argue some of there's such a growing disconnect between the people employed in a lot of these school districts and the rest of the state. And we're seeing in Spring Branch, a suburb of Houston, a really nasty story erupting of kind of the outworking of this. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so here's a situation where you've got some high school students that want to start a Turning Point USA chapter. Very timely, right, with the Charlie Kirk assassination, and they want to get this started. Well, as they're trying to get this through the administrative process at the school, here you have some local Democrat activists essentially threatening any teacher that will sponsor this club. And what has happened as a result? Well, according to the student trying to get this club off the ground, no teacher at the school wants any part of it. They don't want to touch it. They can't find a single teacher to sponsor this club. You've had the Attorney General speak out against this and warn against this sort of behavior. We may see some further action on this, but this just goes to show you. I mean, if you can't find a single person who is employed at this one high school, Stratford High School, it's just one example, but if you can't find a single person employed at the school who's willing to fight this fight alongside the students, I think that says a lot about the kind of people that unfortunately are all too prevalent in some of these government education schools.
Yes, we're going to have some more reporting. We report on this past weekend, more reporting coming out. Michael Berry, a Houston radio show host, had a show on it this morning. You can find his podcast and check that out. What were they talking about? Universities, you're talking about high schools. It feels like free speech is under assault. Sure. The people doing the assaulting, though, aren't just using words; they're actually assaulting. And I think this is where a student in high school needs teachers, needs administrators who are willing to stand up and say, "No, we're not going to let people be bullied and threatened on our campus," and to hopefully, with enough outrage, maybe some teachers at Stratford High School and Spring Branch ISD might find some convictions to do their jobs as adults, not be cowed by their friends in the Spring Branch Democrats Club.
Yes, hopefully so.
All right. So, Brandon, thanks for sitting down today. Thanks for joining us on this edition of The Advance. We look forward to seeing you next Monday at noon right here.